It is December 2nd, 2024, and we're interviewing Kaiser Unique. You want to introduce yourself, like name, age, where you're based out of?
Yeah, so I'm Kaiser Unique. I'm 23 years old. I am based out of New Jersey and Pennsylvania mostly. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. So what type of music would you say you make?
To me, it's just pure hip hop. So I guess some people would refer to it as sort of old school or a classical approach to it, or even like an alternative approach. But yeah, to me, it's hip hop. It's hip hop in its nerdiest form. That's what I listen to. So that's what I make.
Yeah.
Cool. Who would you say your biggest musical influences are?
The biggest ones would be Wu-Tang Clan. That was the group that really got me into hip hop in general. Before then, I didn't really have any experience with hip hop. Like, obviously it came on, but I just wasn't inherently interested by it. But hearing Wu-Tang Clan for the first time and then seeing how they mixed their kung fu references and made these anime-esque references in their stuff, I immediately related to. And I think kind of goes with MF Doom. He is a big influence on me. All of the comic book references, his abstract way of writing rhymes. I think both Wu-Tang and Doom have this going for them where they really have the ability to tell very intricate stories, but also be able to write things that are stream of consciousness and aren't really like easy to follow, but they still sound entertaining. And that's always related to me, like the abstract part of poetry. I feel like abstract poetry is very underrated, actually. And I think being able to write something that on paper might not make sense to someone else, but they can still find it interesting and be intrigued by it, that's really a really important part of my philosophy. And then I guess the last one I would throw in there is Earl Sweatshirt, particularly what he's been making recently with, Sick and Voir Dire and all of those, like, very poetry kind of based albums where he's very, like, vulnerable and, like, he just has a way of talking about the simplest things with, like, such passion.
Yeah. Awesome. So, how long have you been making music?
I've been making music since I was in high school. So I want to say I got into it around junior year or so of high school. But I didn't really start taking it seriously until I want to say like late senior year or even beginning of college. But yeah, I've been making music since then.
Cool. How do you sort of develop the skill initially? Because the stuff you do is certainly impressive to somebody who has no ability in poetry or rap or anything. So how do you get into it?
I mean, honestly, it was kind of just like it became a thing from studying. Like I would always say that I considered myself a writer, but I didn't really do anything that I would consider poetry or like rapping until I just kind of saw the greats doing it. And the thing about like the influences I mentioned, they're really homework heavy, as in like to really understand and appreciate what they're saying, you can't really do that without having a genius like genius.com open directly in front of you. Or if you come from where they come from or the time period they're coming from, you might understand it. But if you just don't have that context, there's just so much information you'd be missing. But because I was just so interested in the sound of it itself and the way the words were strung together, I was always just really keen on doing the homework. So that kind of just got me in the habit of just being like, okay, I think I can do this, because I feel like I already had like a proclivity to wordplay and a desire to do wordplay. Like in high school, I kind of got bit by the poetry bug where I would do a poem and it would kind of just be like wordplay the entire way through, basic rhyme scheme and wordplay. And it was really like one day I just kind of looking at the poem, and I'm just like, honestly, this just kind of feels like a rap song, but worse. So what if I just made it a rap song for real and see how I can do that? And it just became a habit. Like anytime I had any idea of that kind of nature, a pun, a wordplay, something involving idiom, something to say about like a societal issue, I would just write it down, and then I would just keep coming back to it and finding a rhyme for it, and I just kind of grew the habit.
Cool.
Awesome. How'd you come up with the name Kaiser Unique?
Kaiser, the Kaiser part is kind of just a word that I've just kind of always liked. There was really no specific reason it had to be that word. It was just sort of this thing that I would do a lot, where I'm very like into just giving people nicknames and giving things nicknames. So anytime I just wanted to make something sound cool, I would just kind of put Kaiser in front of it or after it. I just thought it sounded cool. It was really that simple. So I would, there's a street I lived by called Zaloof, which I always thought was a cool name. So I'd be like, yeah, over here, this is Kaiser Zaloof, and he died, and that's why the street is called Zaloof. And yeah, I do stupid things like that. So when I was choosing a name for myself, I picked Kaiser, and the unique, I sort of added just kind of last minute. Of course, to like differentiate myself from anybody else with the Kaiser name, but it was also like it was also a little bit of Wu-Tang influence too. Like Old Dirty Bastard, his righteous name, so to speak, was Ason Unique, and so I was like Kaiser Unique. And to me, I just related to the word unique because I always felt like a little bit of a intellectual misfit, we'll call it,
Yeah, honest, I'll give it to you. It rolls off the tongue incredibly well.
It does.
I'm glad.
So, outside of music stuff, am I correct that you're in school at the moment?
Yes, I am literally in my dorm as we speak.
There you go. What school and what are you studying?
I am studying media studies and production at Temple University.
Cool. And in general, even beyond the school, like what kinds of other interests, hobbies do you have? What kinds of other things do you work on? Other kinds of art?
Right. Video editing is a really big part of, I'd say, the things that I do on a day-to-day basis. Before I got into making music, I thought I was going to be an animator. I'm really into cartoons. So that's really for what I thought my life was going to pan out. The music thing, it was kind of accidental. I just sort of fell into it, and I was like, yeah, I like this. This is cool. I'm going to keep doing it. But a lot of the stuff that I've learned from like filmmaking, I sort of apply to my music. All of my beats on YouTube, I always try to find some kind of rare animation or something to go along with them to spice them up. I've been editing the videos for Superjack, for pretty much all of the Tempest Raven era stuff. All of that is me doing the editing. So that's another, I'd say, a big part of my art.
Yeah. I've noticed in your videos you do a lot of like, significant color changes and overlaying, and yeah, a lot of use of like very rare, odd, old animations or films, and it comes together with the kind of a psychedelic feel almost.
Right. I mean, for me, I think of I do video editing a similar way that I make beats. When you're looking for samples, you're just trying to find something that is something that sounds right, or something that is rare, something people haven't really like heard before. And I kind of have a similar approach when I'm editing videos. Like I am both trying to like all of my work, I would say, is collage in a sense, a little bit, where it's like yeah, I'm editing this video for Jack, but as soon as, Jack is like telling me, what he has in mind for what he's going to film, my brain is also thinking about like, what visuals was I thinking about when I heard the song? Do I know a video or a movie that already has that that feel? And then the question really just becomes, on set is like, is that vibe going to be created by someone creating an image that is similar to that? Or is it sometimes a situation where it can be interspliced with something else? Like I can add that vibe just by taking something else and putting it into that context and putting that into like his world.
Yeah.
Cool.
So then I guess heading back to music, how do you start a song?
I mean, honestly, it really just depends. Like I said, most of the time I will do writing at any point. Like anytime I get an idea, anytime I read a book and I read something and the line just rolls off the tongue, I write it down. Anytime I'm in class and the teacher says something interesting, or I'm looking at the textbook and I'm bored as hell, but I'm like, ooh, that's an interesting idea. I write it down, and then a lot of times just what happens is either I'm making a beat or I hear a beat and then I find a way to repurpose one of those lines and then expand on it and give it context.
Do you have particular themes that you find yourself coming back to repeatedly?
What do you mean by themes?
Topics or ideas or anything that you just explore a lot.
Well, when I got into rapping, the main point of it for me was to be a conscious rapper, to talk about my blackness. It was a way for me to get in touch with that, and so a lot of stuff that I wrote during that time period was very, very pro-black, very kind of militant. I've always been the type of person where I love conscious hip-hop, but I also like hip-hop that has like an edge to it. Like I'm like, yeah, I want to feel smart and conscious, but like I also want to feel hard while I'm listening to it. Like I enjoy very vulnerable rappers too, but I think there's just something to be said about being able to mash those two ideas, where it's like just because somebody is being harsh or being hard or whatever doesn't mean they can't just have something smart to say too. So I come back to that a lot. Honestly, nowadays I feel like I'm way more low key about it, where I just write whatever comes to mind. Since I love cartoons and I'm really into Looney Tunes, that comes up in rhymes a lot, where I come back to ideas and references from that. I remember when I first started writing, I didn't really like to write about like sex or be flirty in rhymes, and now I'm not like that at all. I be flirty in rhymes all of the time. I'm way more flirty in music than I probably am in real life. So those are topics I'd say I come back to a lot.
Yeah. So I know that you've done a lot of collaborations as well as your solo stuff. You want to tell us a little bit about what it's like working with other people and how that process works for you?
Right. I mean, I don't know. I kind of, as much as I would say music for me is a by myself thing, as in like I can make music in my room with nobody else, I also kind of just inherently think of it as a collaborative process. So, obviously me and Jack are very close, so we often bounce ideas off of each other. There's like many albums that I have that Jack has made that I have no literal musical contribution to, but I was there when he was writing it or recording it or sequencing it, and I'm giving him like ideas about like, okay, this sequence this way gives me this feel. Maybe we can cut this out. And, he also does the mixing for my music. So, a lot of things just happen because of that. Like, if I'm making a song and he just has an idea for a chorus, he'll just be like, oh, I have an idea. And then he'll record it. It just kind of happens intuitively. With some of the other artists, like Nev is the producer of Tortoise in the Hair, or I've worked a little bit with Inspector K on Plenty More and what else? Nana Pizzant off the album. You know, a lot of those people I met in a Discord server during the pandemic, where everybody had no choice but to just kind of be online. And a lot of those connections I made back then, I still collaborate with them. I still get ideas based off the music that they are making. And then even like people like Lex Isle, I'll sit around and I'll bounce rhymes off of him. Like when we get into a Discord call, somebody starts playing the beat, and then we're just like, okay, let's just go through the notepad for everything that we wrote this month. And so I'm inspired by what other people are writing to keeps my pen sharp.
Yeah.
Circling back towards the stuff that you work on, especially with Jack. You want to talk about some of the details of your recording and production process for your music?
Yeah. So, I mean, most of the stuff that I work on tends to just be produced by me, or just like I said, one of the people I know in the Discord server. And then the collaboration part really just comes from Jack mixing it and putting vocal effects on it. So a lot of that's just sort of intuitive. But every now and again there's stuff that I would say is a bigger kind of collab. Like with Peaches and Cream, it has this great hook on it by Jack. A lot of that, I wrote some of the lyrics that he put in. But also the only reason I really decided to write something to that beat was because it was one of the beats that Jack picked out that he wanted to hear rhymes to. So even though I, did the production and did a lot of the heavy lifting, it was very much like Jack who pushed me to make the song, because it was really just sitting on in a beat folder, just kind of laying there for years. And then he was like, I really want to see you write something to this. And I was like, let's see if I can do it. Because at the time, I thought it was a little non-intuitive to rap on. But when I went to go start writing to it, I'm like, I'm a way better rapper than I was 3 years ago. So this is actually, just kind of flowing out of me. Songs like Protect have Jack production on them. And again, it's still a similar process. Jack gives me the beat. I sit on it probably for too long. I'm a slow writer. But then when I come up with something, I bring it back to him and we record it. There's a couple, situations where we sit down and rewind. He already has a song that's kind of complete. And I want to say with that one there wasn't intentionally supposed to be a rap verse on it. If I remember correctly, it was just a song he needed something to add to, and I was like, oh, I have an idea for this, just because I was inspired by the song itself. So sometimes, he'll just be working on something that has no intention for me to be on it, and then I'll be on it anyway, and vice versa.
Yeah. So you came out with Yours Truly earlier this year. You want to tell us a little bit about the process of making that, and then also what you're working on next?
Right. Yeah, so the process of making that was kind of, I want to say a multiple year-long thing. Like I said, Peaches and Cream was a beat that was already lying around. There was there's a lot of stuff that are sort of carry-ons from what I was working on in the past. But there's also a lot of new stuff on there, like Protect. I was probably the last song I finished. Cling to Me was a newer cut. So it was really an album where I made it at multiple different times. Different parts of the albums were made at different times in my life, and I feel the album's really its goal is to just sort of capture that, capture my mind state at different points, and it's in that sense it's a little scatterbrained, but it's because of the way that it's sequenced. It's almost like taking you through uh, my journey as an artist in chronological order in that sense. Like you're getting tracks on it that are, you know, reflective of my conscious era and you know, having a lot of political things to say. You're getting goofy tracks like Peaches and Cream, where it's just kind of like relaxed and flirty vibes. You're getting sad stuff too. You know, you're getting like a little bit of the heartbreak sort of stuff. So, you know, a lot of that was just things, just lots of songs that were just kind of rattling in my head that I finished at different points, and then we were able to sequence it into a narrative. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm really proud of how that one came out. I feel like for the next project I'm working on a lot of things. Honestly, that's really the hardest part of doing this, is that I'm working on like 5 things at all times. So I'll finish the song and you'll be like, oh, okay, is that going on the next album? I'm like, no, it's probably like 3 albums from now, but you know, I'm glad you want to hear it. You know, so, but I think the next thing that is probably going to come out is collab work with this producer named Advance, who has recently some of the songs that he's collabs with on Jack have actually just come out. So I have a tape that I am working on with him, and I think that's probably what's going to be coming out next.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I know that you've kind of got a thing that you wear gloves when you perform. Do you want to talk a little bit about your image as an artist and why you're wearing gloves?
Right. Yeah. So like I said earlier, I'm really big into Looney Tunes, so that's really what the white gloves are for. They're a reference to Bugs Bunny, and that kind of defines a lot of like I want to say like my personality, my persona when I'm rapping, like a character that is like laid back, but a little bit of a smart aleck, and you know, someone who isn't like particularly like tough, but somebody who's witty, fast on their feet kind of thing. So the white gloves are really a reference to that, but honestly just animation in general. Like, you know, Mickey Mouse wears the gloves, Goofy wears the gloves, Full Metal Alchemist, Ed wears the gloves, you know, so I just kind of associate white gloves with cartoons, and I just kind of feel like as a kid I always wanted them damn white gloves. Like it hurt me inside that I couldn't just walk into a store and casually find white gloves. So when I finally got my hands on them, I was like, this is going to be my image. Like before I started rapping, I wanted these damn white gloves. So, you know, like that was a really big part, because it was something that was specific to me, but it was also something nobody else really has. Like everybody in cartoons has them, like they just grow on trees, but you never see anybody in real life just casually wearing white gloves. So that was really a big part of the image for me.
Awesome.
Cool. That's deeper than I would have expected.
Yeah.
So our last big question is, why are you a musician?
I don't know. I mean, personally, I don't even consider myself a musician because I don't play an instrument. But I would say that I'm an artist just because it's not really a choice, to be honest. You know, even if I wasn't doing music specifically, I would have still been doing something creative, whether that would have been video editing or just focusing on camera work, or if I had, you know, taken my initial passion for animation more seriously. I just have a need to create, and it's a compulsion more than it is anything else. And music just happens to be a really good outlet for that, because it allows me to, you know, really access the parts of myself that I feel like make me a good writer, while I can leave behind some of the other stuff. Like I'm a good writer, but I'm not a great essay writer. I'm not really great with formalities. I have a lot to say. I have a lot of ideas, but I'm not necessarily someone who's like, yeah, I'm about to write a book. But rapping is something that I can always do, because it can be anything I want it to be. It can be serious. It can be, It can use colloquial language. It can use the kings, queens, English. You know, so I can adapt it to whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. So we're wrapping up. Is there anything else we should be asking you about, or anything you definitely want included that we haven't touched on?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. All right. In that case, just where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram, Kaiser_unique. I'm on all streaming services, including stuff like Bandcamp. And I would say that if you haven't already, check out my YouTube channel, which is just Kaiser Unique, because I post to there way more frequently than what I do with the rapping stuff. So you'll get more of the visuals that I discussed in this, and some of like the beats and production.
Awesome.
Thank you for talking to us,
Yeah,
Kaiser.
thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me.